The point that I want to touch upon now, though, is I think another issue which relates to the how, the tools of statutory interpretation. Now, there are complex rules that I'm not going to go into that relate to how particular words in statutes are to be interpreted. What I do want to talk about is the role of presumptions in statutory interpretation. Now, these presumptions, to me, tell us more about the reality of statutory interpretation, the way the common law works, than any attempt to generally abstract such as the way that scholars and commentators try and suggest that there's a literal rule, golden rule, a mischief rule, etc. So let's focus for the moment on the presumptions of statutory interpretation. Now, there are certain presumptions that have grown up around how a statute is to be interpreted. And the presumptions are as follows. First presumption. There's a presumption against the alteration of the common law. A second presumption, that mens rea, or the mental element, should be a part of a criminal offence. Next, there is a presumption against the retrospective application of a statute. There is also a presumption against the deprivation of an individual's liberty, property, or rights. There is a presumption that legislation doesn't apply to the Crown, a presumption against breach of international law, and a presumption that words take their meaning from their context. Now, I just want to say a couple of words, not about all of those presumptions, but about some of them. The presumption that words take their meaning from their context. I think if you read any number of modern statutory interpretation cases, you'll see that this is what informs judicial practice. Obviously, one reads within context to a large extent. This is a commonsensical idea. When you read, context is important to the creation of the meaning of the thing that you are reading. And that context in legal interpretation is often the context of the law. So I think if one wants a basic guide, a basic understanding of what is going on here, then the context is all important as the guide to interpretation. Now, in a more specific sense, this is a presumption that judges make in areas of ambiguity, that words will take their meaning from their context. But what strikes me as interesting about these presumptions of statutory interpretation is that there are certain, if you like, substantive values within them, which will be used in the event of ambiguity in a statutory provision. For instance, there is a presumption against the retrospective application of a statute, which is fundamental to the rule of law, that the law cannot have retrospective application, that can only have an application in relation to the future. If you think about it, the retrospective application of law is fundamentally a bad idea. The other interesting thing here is that we make a presumption in statutory interpretation against the deprivation of an individual's liberty or property or rights. In other words, the spirit of interpretation in the common law is one that stresses individual liberty, property and rights. A great deal could be said about those presumptions. But my most minimal point here is that I think to understand the contemporary practice, it's these presumptions that really take us to where the action is, rather than other more abstract understandings of what is going on in this area.